You're not together anymore, but somehow you still want to kiss them. You still want to hold them. You know you're not in love anymore, but your body's doing this weird thing and you're feeling called towards them. What the heck is happening? Welcome to the Staying Wild and Well podcast. My name is Rin, and my greatest accomplishment is being alive. Here we talk about life's journey, the ups, the downs, the in-betweens, all things mental health, body, mind, and spirit. We share wild stories and keeping your wild alive while staying well. Today we are going to talk about some of the weird things that show up when we are moving through a separation. Some of the strange thoughts, some of the strange experiences you might have as you're moving through a separation. So if you're going through a separation, here are a couple things you might expect. And let's start with that one, you guys, because I've experienced that one. I'm like, what is happening? What is happening is that this person is familiar. That's number one. Number two, what's happening is that a part of your nervous system, a part of your psyche, a part of your body may be rejecting the change that has happened within your relationship and doesn't want it. What else is happening is you don't know any other way to show up with this person. Another thing, if you are me and you are grieving and this person felt like home, you just want to cry with them and hold them and be in their arms because it's comfort and it feels like home, even though you're not in love anymore. So do not be startled if this shows up in your body. It might be something weird that you experience as you're moving through your separation. Something else you might experience is that you start to have realizations after you aren't together anymore. When you have this space with this person, you have the ability to start to see things that you didn't always see or didn't have the space or the mental bandwidth because perhaps you guys were arguing, perhaps there's a lot of tension, maybe you were so deep within it that you didn't have the ability to see it. Now that you are removed from it, you can have these realizations and start to think, dang, it's too late. What if I would have realized this before? What if I would have realized this sooner? Would things have been different? They are not different. Stay in your present. There is no need to be going the what if route. What if I had realized this differently? I'm so sad that I didn't recognize this sooner. Focus on where you are. But you may have realizations well after the relationship has ended. You might even realize what actually created this separation, because when you're in it, you think it's about one thing because you guys are so in it egoically and fighting or disagreeing or caught up in the emotion. There are emotions and then there's facts. And when we're living from a space of emotion, we can't always see why we've separated. And when we have removed and separated ourselves from that situation and that relationship, we can start to see things more clearly. And that clarity comes from being apart. Confused with how to show up with your partner. When you've been in a relationship for a really long time, you might not know how to be with one another. I know that's certainly something that I've experienced, my previous partner has experienced, where we were like, we've been together so long. How do you talk to each other? How do you show up? Where do you draw the line? Can you be friends? You want to be friends, but there's this weird, how do you explain it? I don't even know. It's a weird dynamic between the two of you as you guys are trying to discover how to show up with one another. Trying to figure out how to be, essentially. Afraid to get too close. I know that sometimes if you choose to remain friends, there can be confusion, and if you get too close, is it going to confuse the relationship? Is one person going to have hope and the other person not? Is it going to confuse you because you have this history? This is something that could show up as you're trying to navigate the separation in an amicable way. So you have to discern whether it's good to maintain that friendship or not. This is a weird one. my partner had always had long hair, and then he got it cut. And though he looked super handsome with him getting his hair cut, I had big feelings about his haircut, guys. I was like not loving what was showing up in my body experientially. I was like, this isn't okay. Like, why did he get his hair cut? I had anxiety. And that is because it means change. They are moving on without you. So you might find they start to do things differently, show up differently, wear different clothes, wear different things, purchase different things than they did when they were with you. And that is really hard to accept because you are having to understand that they are moving forward. You are having to understand that things are no longer the same. And the brain doesn't like change. It wants to keep everything the same and keep you safe. So that's something that could show up. You could have some anxiety about the way they are showing up in their lives and some of the changes they've implemented as they choose to move forward and move on in the relationship. They might text you in a certain way, showing up emotionally, but in person they act different. Sometimes it's easier to express yourself by text message or by written email or a letter, but in person they don't know how to be. They stonewall, they put a wall up in order to protect themselves, or they have weak moments of vulnerability, which leads into these random outbursts of tears you might have because you've been holding it together. And energy, emotion is motion, and it has to move through you. We are the only species, by the way, the only people, oh my God, I'm stuttering. We are the only, I think species is the right word. If it's not, somebody correct me, it's gonna happen. We are the only species that choose to hold the energy inside of us. Animals, when they are experiencing something they don't like, watch them, especially like my dog does this. If he's feeling disrupted, he like shakes it off and takes a deep breath and goes. And animals in the wild do this as well. After they get into a fight or a brawl, they shake it off and they move on. We store and tense up and hold it all inside. Emotion needs to emote and needs to move through you. So if you are moving through and you're holding it all together, you might have these random outbursts and cries because you haven't been moving it through your body the ways that you should or could, or it just happens because it needs to be released, like that shake that the animal does. I shake. That is really therapeutic, by the way. If ever you feel like you have pent up energy, just to like shake it off. Like sometimes I'll stand in the kitchen, I'll just be like, "Dah!" and I'll jump up and down and move my body to just get that energy to be released off your shoulders. That is something you can incorporate, just like a friendly tip as I describe some of the weird ways that things can show up in your relationship once it's ended. Wanting them to meet you where you're at, and they just can't. You might find frustration within. I know this is a big one that I experienced moving through my separation. It's like, why can't they just meet you where they're at? Why can't they just show up this way? It's really challenging to watch them move through their own way of navigating the grief of the relationship. You have to accept it. You have to accept it, even though it is super challenging. Trying to find balance within their family dynamics, meaning if you were connected to your partner for a really long time, there's a good chance that you've cultivated and built relationships with their family. Seeing how those relationships show up and how you navigate that could be a challenge for you. But also, what I want you to look out for sneakily is that if you're maintaining relationships with family members of that ex-partner, make sure you're not digging for information and walking around the garden to gather information about your previous partner. This is a sneaky thing that our brains can do because we're curious. We want to inflict pain on ourselves. Yes, we are morbid. And when we are going through grief, we tend to do that for some reason. Listen to the sad songs, find out the information we don't want to know. Be careful. This could happen. Jealousy. You might find that they're having a good time and you feel jealous. You're happy for them that they're having a good time, or maybe not, because sometimes it didn't end so great, but you feel jealousy move through your body when you know that they're having a good time. And you might even make stories and assumptions that they're having a good time, when really, there's no way for you to truly know if they are having a good time. that's it, you guys. This is a short and sweet episode. I wanted to share a couple things because I was like noticing as I'm moving through my separation in real time, there are these weird things that keep popping up and emotions, especially the holding and kissing thing. I'm like, why? I understand that I don't want to be with my partner romantically, but this is showing up, and I'm like, I can't be the only one, and I am here to instill any sort of teaching and takeaway so that you don't feel alone, and I know that I'm not the only one who's gone through this, so let's talk about it. There are strange things that could show up, and the best thing you could do as you navigate it is to look at things one thing at a time. Don't stack what you are going through. Be the observer. Do not connect yourself to a storyline about what this must mean because you are upset that they got a haircut or that you want to hold them or there's this jealousy. We are beautifully human and we are going to experience an array of different emotions when we move through grief, when we move through loss. Nothing is linear. One day you might very much dislike your ex-partner. The next you may love them and find gratitude and thankful that they came into your life and that they taught you. There are so many layers to this. The best thing you could do is be present in your experience without any sort of judgment.